Where do I start?
Yeah, where do you
I must
start?
have
Yeah.
this 3-year plan and know that in the first year, it's not going to be all sun and roses. It's going to be grind, it's going to be development, it's going to be creation, it's going to be learning, it's going to be rejection, it's going to be failing, and it's about failing forward. The first thing about an entrepreneurial mindset is to say, does my product or service that I'm going to do meet the demand of the client? How do I take this product here to my customer? Where do I find my customer? So the first thing is I need to sharpen my skill set, me. I need to learn. I need to grow.
Welcome back to the Forum for Marginalized Industries. Today, I am so overwhelmed with gratitude because I get to speak to one of the most important elements that contributes towards the trajectory and development of this country. And that is small, micro, and medium businesses that are finding themselves at the receiving end based on the socio-economic challenges that this country is actually going through. And the heart of it is people. And it is those people that are actually driving those businesses. But the gratitude comes against the backdrop of having met individuals that are making stride in making sure that these people that are running those businesses ahead finds an expression and contribute towards the development of this country. I am joined by Vani Pillay. She has been one of those women that are very instrumental in being able to make a mark around the world of SMEs, and especially the challenges that they're actually facing in this country. Studies have shown that over 70% of small, medium, and micro enterprises fail in the first year. And Vani Pillay decided to actually leave her cozy corporate world and focused on being able to empower those small and medium enterprises to realize their fullest potential. I am one of those that are going through this journey. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please click, please like, please share, because this is a channel where we can be able to unpack the challenges that we are facing, especially when it comes to marginalized industries. And even SMEs themselves are marginalized. People such as Vani are making a difference. She's here with me. Madam Pillay,
Hi, Cindy.
what an honor.
Thank you so much.
What an honor. I wish I can just stand and hug you.
We can give each other.
I wish I can just stand and hug you. But thank you for joining us. I think this conversation is long overdue. I think this conversation against the backdrop of uncertainty in the country, in the world, and how we navigate through that is important. But at the backbone of it is business. And in South Africa, studies have shown that those that enter the world of entrepreneurship fail in the first year, 70%. It is an alarming figure, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely an alarming figure.
So What is the cause? If you can start there.
So thank you, Cindy, for having me. I'm humbled to be here. I think your initiative to drive a forum for marginalized industries is really important, on point, and I'm at the right place when we talk SMEs. Before I answer that question, let me just step a little bit back, right?
Sure.
The unemployment rate in South Africa is currently at 32%, the highest in history. The highest in history.
32%.
32%, the highest. But the statistics will differ about a point here and there in terms of research, but 32%.
But on average, it is 32%, and that is very alarming as well.
Absolutely.
So the correlation between that and the failure rate of SMEs in this country, what does it mean? Vani, can you just unpack it in a simpler term so that we could be able to actually understand the severity of what we're actually talking about?
And the word you use is correlation. So
Yeah.
let me paint the story for you. Let's talk about the story.
Sure.
Right? 32% unemployment rate in South Africa, the highest in history. The second important figure, the second important statistic that's important and close to my heart is 40% of households are led by single mothers who need sustainable income to manage those households. And I'm building the story for you, so let's go with that, right?
Sure.
With that, they have permanent jobs, but they need side hustles to be able to supplement that income. But even more so, if you look at that 32%, statistics, I just read that last week and I think I shared it with you earlier on. 39.9% of women, black women in South Africa, are unemployed.
39%.
39%, above the 32% average.
Sure.
Right? So single moms, unemployment, 39% black women unemployed. What you find is a shift towards, okay, from a side hustle, I now need to run my own business and supplement my income to run our household. So that's the story. SMEs, as you rightfully say, micro, small, medium-sized businesses, contribute 39% of the country's GDP. 39%.
That's a lot, isn't it?
That's a lot. But comparatively to global countries, there is a potential to contribute 70 to 80% of the country's GDP. There's a potential from 39 to 70 to 80% of the potential. If you look at where employment sits, it sits largely in the SME sector. Because at the moment, we contribute 56% of the employment. So these are lots of numbers I'm sharing with you because I want to come back to your first question. Why do 70% of the SMEs fail in the first 3 to 5 years, and what is the impact? So I want to come back to the question, but I want to paint this picture for you. So if you then understand that if we SMEs have the potential then with 39% to take it to 70 to 80%, and then has the potential to contribute 90% of the 11 million jobs by 2030. The story is that the SME sector has the power to create economic resilience in this country. That's where our attention and our focus and our investments need to be. Because that's the story.
So where is the disjuncture? Where is the disjuncture, Vani? Because if SMEs can be very instrumental in being able to contribute so much towards the growth of this country, and where we seek to go, our positioning as well as a country, because I think as South African we've got a lot to offer.
Yes.
You know, we've got so much that we can be able to offer, but it's just the start. And the bottlenecks that presents themselves as a business person when you've got that idea.
Yeah.
But what are the bottlenecks? What is the problem? What is the key issues that are not enabling somebody to actually move from an idea to a realization of a fully fledged business that can be able to really sustain themselves and be able to contribute towards the community as well? Because once you have a business, you are contributing towards the sustainability of the community as well. Because the people that you employ are coming from different backgrounds, different communities. So what is it? Why is there disjuncture?
So that's an important question. What is the disjuncture?
Sure.
Why do these organizations fail, right? So there are 6 reasons. If you read consistently through all the research, there's every single article. If you just Google, why do SMEs fail? You'll get a list of articles, you get a list of statistics, and they're all consistent. So the theme, and I would refer you, I know this is close to your heart, there's an amazing research, recent 2023 by Mshlamlu and Daya, that talks about the impact and failure rate of entrepreneurs in the South African context. And there's 6 key themes that come through. Okay. The number one, so you say, where do I start and where's the disjuncture? The number one reason is entrepreneurial and management skills. So let me list them for you, and then let's deep dive into each one of those 6.
Sure.
So I can give you examples and almost paint that picture of why this disjuncture exists. Entrepreneurial and management skills. The second reason is financial management, or understanding finance, the financial skills, management of the records in terms of financial management. So, and I'll give you some examples about that. The third reason I think that's very important is the lack of training, and we say the lack of skills, some people call it the lack of talent in the SME sector. The fourth reason, another very important reason, is the lack of infrastructure and technology. That was the finding in the study. The fifth reason, and I think most important reason, lots of controversial conversations about them, lack of funding.
That's don't get enough where funding. We need to actually drill into that. As we unpack, yes. but that's exactly where I wanted to actually
lack
go
of funding.
To. Yes. And the sixth,
lack of entrepreneurial mindset.
Okay.
And when you hear me talk, in my heart, what's important is the last one, which is entrepreneurial mindset.
Okay. Can we start with the latter though?
Let's go then. Which is entrepreneurial mindset.
The entrepreneurial mindset. What are we looking at? Are you talking about the zeal? Are you talking finding purpose in what you do? Because there's so many ideas. Everybody has got different attributes in terms of how they can be able to monetize certain things. But the question would be the how part, and whether does that resonate with you. Or it's just a popular thing that happens. So I wanted to actually talk about that.
Let's talk about that.
Can you unpack it a little bit?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And why that's important. So let me give you an example, right? You have an idea as an entrepreneur.
Yep.
And you know this idea or this product or this service, this is what you want to build, this is what you want to create, and this is what you want to take out there and sell to market, because you know this idea is, I have a dream, right? All entrepreneurs start off with that. And you had it, I have it, and all the entrepreneurs listening will say, oh, I know what this means. I have a dream to sell that product. I have a dream to build that technology.
Sure.
I have a dream to create that shampoo or skincare. So we all have that. But a dream is only a dream. It can only become a reality when you create action to make that dream a reality. So let's unpack that a little bit more. The first thing about an entrepreneurial mindset is to say, does my product or service that I'm going to do meet the demand of the client? Where is the demand? Is the demand here in this environment? You have to ask that question. That's the first thing. And the second thing is who are these clients or customers that are going to use my product and services? You need to know that up front. So give you a practical example. You a hairdresser, and hair and makeup is a big thriving industry in not just South Africa, not just Africa, but globally, right? So the demand is always going to be there.
Is it because there's a lot of women in this world?
That's a debate for another day, right? But let's be honest, you have to look the part.
There's many of us,
But you have to look the part, right? And for us, looking good makes us feel good. It's not about just being impressionable or following
of that business.
You look good,
like
you
that.
feel good. It's all about how you look nowadays, right? And aesthetically and honestly, so it's how you show up. But that business is growing, and if the demand is there, it means that my mindset already, I've understood the client, I've understood the customer, and my product is going to meet that. So you have to almost shift your thinking towards the customer and not about what your passion is.
Okay.
If you can understand that. Okay. So that's the first thing about entrepreneurial mindset. The second is the willingness to stay the course. And what I mean by this is it does take hard work, it takes focus, it takes persistence, it takes perseverance, and what we call resilience. That's entrepreneurial mindset. Normal definition about resilience: I get rejected 500 times, but you know what? I'll pick myself off, dust myself off, and go back and knock at the door again. That's the entrepreneurial mindset. I don't take rejection personally.
But that's exactly where the problem sometimes is when it comes to entrepreneurs. Because you spend time, you spend resources for you to be able to go to Vani. Vani as a specialist that is helping SMEs to realize their potential closes her door. You go to Cindy that, you go to Tabiso, you go to Sipogazi, you go to Biliso, you go to Tlantla, you go to everybody. And they all close their doors. But you know deep down that you've got a solution. How do you now stay the course?
My answer is going to sound simplistic. So work with me here if you think, fine, tell me more.
Sure.
The one thing, what we do in the Ignite Hub and Oaktree, we created a formula called me first, we second, work, and world. So let me unpack that.
Please.
You have to work on yourself first. That's why we call it the entrepreneurial mindset. Before you can work on the product, before you can work on the customer. So let me tell you how that works. Working on myself means I now need my skill set to become an entrepreneur. I need to understand what my brand positioning is, brand and marketing. How do I take this product here to my customer? Where do I find my customer? So the first thing is I need to sharpen my skill set, me. I need to learn. I need to grow. It's not going to come automatic. You need to know it. There's a methodology behind it. That's why they talk about entrepreneurial skill, and they talk about management or leadership skill. Entrepreneurial skill is know your product, know your customer, and understand how to take this product to the customer. And it is a skill. So when I talk about me first, it means you must be willing to learn. If you're not willing to learn, then you can't go to the work path, which is sell the product to the customer, because you haven't learned how. And we all think we learned how. I must be honest with you. Remember, I like the way you introduced me. I was in corporate for more than 20 years, sitting in
Yes.
C-suite roles,
Yes.
managing, really running a big organization. And then I became an entrepreneur. I started from grade 1. I went back to grade 1 because it didn't come easy to me. Yeah, I actually went back to grade 1 because, okay, I knew about running a corporate enterprise, but I just didn't really get to terms with how do I package this great vision and idea of mine and make it, realize it for that customer, make it valuable for the customer. And who is that customer?
Sure.
You have to understand that.
Sure.
And that is the reason I said I went back to grade 1. I went back to understand. I was socially awkward, by the way, when I was in corporate. And when I say I was socially awkward, as head of HR, you obviously put a mask because you're dealing with a different type of work. You're dealing with individuals. Your reputation must be beyond repute. You must manage employees and systems and processes from a corporate perspective. You don't sell a brand. You don't know how to do that. But as an entrepreneur, you're a brand. That's the first thing I want to say, that I'm a brand, you're a brand. You have to first sell yourself and then understand how to sell that product. So I had to learn that, if I can give you an example about going back to grade 1. So firstly, learning is the entrepreneurial mindset. The second thing about that is I must be prepared for rejection, because not everybody is going to buy your product. God, we'll all be millionaires, right? If we could just develop a product and everybody's going to buy that product without any effort. Does it happen like that? No. It takes effort to package it, to position it, to find your customer, to convince that customer, hey, buy my product. That's a skill set. So where is my customer? I need to understand, I needed to learn all of that. So when we talk about entrepreneurial mindset, if I can package it, is for me, is me learning. That's me. Me firstly learning, then me understanding that this is going to be a long journey and I need patience for it. Patience is so, so critical. It's not going to happen overnight. I must be prepared to have a 3-year plan. If you ask me, back to your question, where do I start?
Yeah, where do you
start? I must have
this
3-year plan and know that in the first year, it's not going to be all sun and roses. It's going to be grind, it's going to be development, it's going to be creation, it's going to be learning, it's going to be rejection, it's going to be failing, and it's about failing forward. You were at the round table and I gave that example. I think we spoke about the examples. It's about every successful entrepreneur that you can think about. Think about those successful people. Local, international, let's talk about Jeff Bezos, let's talk about Jack Ma, and I shared with you the J.K. Rowling example. You'd never get Harry Potter if you knew that it took her 12 times before she could get her book published.
Sure.
She failed 12 times. So accept failure. That's what entrepreneurial resilience is. Accept that you will get rejected, but you have to have emotional control to get up in the morning and to dust yourself up and know it's another day. So that's the second part of it. So firstly, it's learning and growing, and that never stops. If you think you're going to stop learning as an entrepreneur, then you're not going to be a successful entrepreneur, if I can say it as blunt as that. Mm-hmm. And the way to learn is to read, listen to podcasts like this, watch webinars, go on programs, and invest in yourself.
In yourself, eh?
Invest in yourself. The second is the emotional resilience piece from an emotional perspective, right? The emotional perspective is remembering that you will fail and do not ever take that personally.
Sure. V, that is that process that you're talking about. Because, we enter into this journey not knowing what we're entering into. It is a foreign territory that you're entering into, and you enter that with hope. So when your hope is dashed as an entrepreneur, and my God, there's a lot of things when we enter into it. We've got responsibilities. You know, some of the people have decided to leave their jobs, their 9 to 5s, and decided that, you know what, let me try this journey. They enter into that, not knowing where they're going to be able to sustain themselves at the end of the month. Month 1, rejection happens. Then what, V? How do you have a will to hold on? How do you go on in the face of adversity when you are going through this thing? I'm talking about this because I'm one of the products of those that decided that, you know, I'm going to leave this corporate world, I'm going to enter into this territory. My goodness, what a rude awakening.
Yeah.
And it is that I wanted us to actually drive through. Because without hope and without pushing it through, but we also spoke about the most important thing though, is that resilience and that emotional know-how on how to manage that situation. That is where I wanted us to actually drive the message across.
Yeah.
Because how did the others make it, and how do you make it?
A very, very important question. And I can tell you this, Cindy, we may not be able to cover the topic today, right? And we must. What I would love is a bigger concept, a bigger group of debate. But I will share with you my journey. I will share with you examples of other people's journey, and I will share with you what worked and what didn't work. So the one thing I can tell you, when you go into business as an entrepreneur, you have to have a plan. And many people fail that first step. There's no plan. If you don't have a plan, we all know this. You plan to fail, right? And we learned in school.
Yes.
Okay? No plan.
And you've heard it a lot of times, by the way. Yes.
But we don't do the simple things.
Yep.
There must be a plan. So you have to have a plan for a year.
Sure.
Or 2 years. And I encourage people, I had a 3-year plan. I had a 3-year plan because I knew that in the first year, I must plan not to make money. Not to make profit. I knew that because I had to psychologically say to myself, how do I cope? I wrote down all my bills because I left corporate. There's no security of income anymore.
Of course.
Okay, there's no security of income. You've got houses to pay, cars to pay, children's school fees to pay, groceries to buy. And as I sit here, I remember those days when I said to myself, oh my God, what did I do? Oh my God, why? Why did I do this? That happened to me. That must have happened to you, and it happened to a lot of people out there.
Of thinking of going back, eh?
Going back or doing anything and feeling helpless. That happened to me. I felt helpless. And I'll tell you more. When I left corporate, I thought that I'd walk into this world and my credibility would precede me. You know, because I was so great in corporate. I was good. You're good at what you do, so okay. You're an A player.
You've got a master's in business.
Yeah, you're an A player.
Yes,
little did
you've
I
done
know.
it all. Yes.
So little did I know when I came here, no one knew me.
Yes.
Out in this world, no one knows me
Yes.
except where I worked.
Yes.
So my reputation didn't automatically follow me that I got here and I got all of these clients.
Yes.
And no, my experience, that was a shock.
So you had to build.
You have to build from the bottom up. I did not prepare myself for that. And if I can share that, you have to learn to build from the bottom up. Know that if you're not planning for the 12 months ahead, I love Jim Collins, an amazing, amazing, amazing writer on strategy and how great organizations build resilience. It's called Great by Choice.
Sure.
If you ever get an opportunity to read that book, read it. And one of the things he talks about is oxygen tank. So the money in your bank must be an oxygen tank. And I'll never forget that. And I used to say to myself, oh my God, I didn't even take that learning. You know, so
there's no oxygen
there's
tank.
no oxygen tank. You can't breathe. You're dying.
You're suffocating.
You're suffocating.
Yes.
And it happens. It happened to me. It happened to people that you think were successful now that you think they didn't. I mean, Jeff Bezos started his bookstore in his garage. That's where Amazon started. It was a garage, and he sold books, right? Just let's not forget where's the starting point of all the businesses, where they start. All our businesses started there. All our businesses start here and we start there. We just don't automatically get up and say, oh, this is a brilliant business. Oh my God, you must have had it easy. Every one of us struggle. As I said, I struggled in the beginning because I didn't have those clients. And it's about preparing yourself. So what is my product? Thinking about how do I structure that product? Who's my client? And now how am I going to sell it to the client? An entrepreneur needs that skill. So you have to be prepared to learn and to grow. And I was prepared to do that. You have to be prepared to relinquish all of your luxuries financially and then start at the bottom and know that this is how my life is going to be for the next 12 months because I'm going to give it all or nothing.
No much you work on, right?
There we go. That's exactly what I had to do. All or nothing. That's exactly what you need to do. And that's the reality. But let me just say this to you. You can never do it alone.
That's what I wanted to actually get to, Vani, was the support behind it. That the journey is so lonely that you need support. But where, as an entrepreneur, when you are starting out, do you get support? Who gives you that support? How do you get support? Who do you reach out to?
Here we go. Very important questions. So my own journey was lonely. As I said to you, I went back to grade 1. And so are all the entrepreneurs I had the privilege of meeting on this journey. So when I immersed myself in the SME world, these words, feel isolated. I'm alone. I don't know what to do. What do I do next? How do I get this product out to the market? Can you give me advice? Can you share with me? Oh, how do I manage my finances? How do I, register my company? How do I employ people? Those are lots of questions, and that's the reason when we created the Ignite Hub was for that very reason, to create this community or a place where people can belong, can come to it for guidance, for advice and support. I knew that I could not travel this journey alone, so I had a mentor. Every time I thought about how do I get this to market, I would read about it, learn about it, speak to my mentor and coach, and together I would understand what I needed to do, and then I would implement it. That's the entrepreneurial skill that we are talking about. Nobody is born with it. You're not going to get it just by running a company. You're going to have to learn it from experts. I had the opportunity to learn it from experts. As I said earlier on, the MBA was one important component. But what they don't teach you in the MBA is the practical, real life struggles. They don't teach you that. I learned a lot from my MBA. It shaped my thinking about business, but it did not prepare me for the practical hardship that an entrepreneur was going through. So thinking about that world is why we've created the Step Up program, why we've created this ecosystem, to make it real and to help you learn in your environment.
Sure.
And that's what you need. You have to learn. The me is about how do I learn and grow me before I can actually make my business successful.
So let's talk about funding. Because most of the time you find that you've got that passion, so we've unpacked it. You've got the drive, you've got the passion, you get the support, But you find that some other people as well, it's very difficult for you to know where to access and get support from. And that's the reason why you're saying that as a person, you need to do your research. You need to read. You need to be able to knock on doors. You need to do that. So you're hustling. You're doing that and you're getting it right. You need to start. Cindy has got 12 rand in her pocket. And she has this idea. And then she decides that, you know what? I'm going to take this, have a business plan. I've got my plan, 3 years where I want to go, and this is how I want to do it. Go to a financial institution. Rejection. No funding. They're not willing to fund you. Why is there a problem in South Africa that most businesses are unable to access funding from financial institutions? Because Vani, it is crippling businesses, and a lot of people would ask themselves, but how? But when you go and apply for funding to buy a G-Wagon, I get it, it's approved, but why is it that you're not able to fund my business? Can you just perhaps maybe, because you're coming from a corporate world, and be able to give an insight on why?
That is a very, very important question. And I get entrepreneurs and individuals ask me that question all the time. So I'll share with you the reality, and I know your viewers and some people may not like the reality. But that's the truth, okay? There's a funding gap of 294 billion rand.
294 billion rand that is available.
There's a funding gap.
Oh, a funding
There's a gap.
Oh, okay.
To
There's
be
a
able
gap.
to galvanize
Yes.
or to grow
Sure.
the SME sector, right? There are lots of pockets of excellence that I'm not going to take away from Cindy. So I want to say that up front, right?
Please.
I want to be real and say there are a lot of institutions that support through funding mechanisms, funding vehicles, funding SMEs, whether it is through government institutions, financial institutions, like the banks. I mean, the banks are the biggest contributor of funding SMEs in South Africa, the financial services sector. If you read all of the articles, the government is really making serious inroads in terms of some of the pockets, but there are pockets of excellence. And generally, why there's a huge gap in terms of funding, I can tell you from my experience what it is. The first is that you have to have credibility as a business. Let me talk about what that means.
What does that mean?
Well, let me tell you what that means. Does your product, so I'm sitting here as an investor or as a bank. Sorry, just before I actually go there, I want to also say that you're right about the funding gap is there, but I also want to give you some statistics around that. So there are 3/4, right, that apply for funding, and only 2% get funding in terms of traditional funding vehicles like financial services. There is a missing middle that many researchers talk about. So the missing middle is the big companies don't qualify for the microfunding, and some small businesses, you spoke about 12 rand in your pocket, will not qualify for the various criteria that the banking sector and financial services and investment sector in general
Are they
have.
stringent though?
And I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
In reality, when I looked at some of the criteria, I don't believe the word stringent is applicable. I believe the word real. So let me give you an example, right?
Okay.
Let's talk about this. When you go for funding, it means that I'm going to lend you money, I'm going to loan you money, but you need to show me that you have the ability to pay me back the money. That's the first thing, right? What do you need to show me that you have the ability to pay me back the money? You need to show that to me. The first thing a lot of people say is, a lot of entrepreneurs say, I don't have collateral. So you're asking for collateral and I may not have it, right? There are some banks Specifically, APSA is going to move into that very soon, and other industries to say, okay, we'll waive the collateral, and there's some mechanisms that are consistent, that are currently being put in place to say, okay, you may not need collateral, and somebody else, some other funding houses will act as collateral to be able to support you. Okay, say we tick the box. And
that's one step.
That's one step.
Positive.
You don't
Yes,
need,
that's
right?
one step positive.
Positive.
Yes.
And
Because it's a huge constraint, by the way.
correct.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
So,
yes.
but for me still to believe in you, what is your product? Have you thought about your product? What's your 3-year plan to get that product into market? And tell me who your customer is going to be, and what do you think you will be the return on my investment when I give you the money? Many entrepreneurs have not thought that through. That's what I spoke about, the entrepreneurial skill and the entrepreneurial mindset. When I ask the questions to entrepreneurs, so brilliant product, so who's your competitors? Why are you different to your competitors? What's so different about me buying that cup from Cindy versus me buying that cup from Sibogazi? Why should I buy it from you, Cindy? Tell me why before I give you my money. Then tell me, what do you think can happen with this in a year's time? If you're selling 20 cups in month one, how many cups will you be able to sell in 12 months? And how many customers do you think you'll get? Those are simple questions. For me to believe in you, that's credibility. You need to understand that product. You need to understand who's your customer. Remember,
So that
I said
means
to you,
you need to be able to understand your market.
correct.
Right.
And your plan. That's the plan. We talk about business plans and people think, oh my God, this business plan. That's a one-pager. What I'm talking to you about is simple. One-pager. There's my product, my cup. And then they'll ask you, very importantly, I need to know, what is the cost to make this cup? That's an entrepreneur. You're selling your product. You must know your product. So I'm going to sew this. What's going to cost me to sew this? I'll ask you, what is the cost? What profit are you going to make? They talk about profit margin. Financial, they call it financial acumen.
Sure.
But it's financial skills. So an entrepreneur needs to understand that. So that's my test, firstly, of credibility as an investor. And that has to be real, right? If you disagree with me, Cindy, tell me. So I'm asking you, 12 months, how many customers do you think? Okay, I've got this community. I've already got 200 people in this community.
Do you work with projections, though, V? Is that what you are referring to?
That's what I'm talking about, projections. In 12 months,
Okay.
how many cups will you sell and who are you going to sell it to? Okay, that's just one part of it, right? So that's your business plan. Who's in your team? Right? So maybe you got a team, maybe you don't. Doesn't matter. Where do you work from? So yes, I work home office, my garage, my bedroom, but actually this is how it's set. And this is what I'm doing, and this is how I'm going to do it, and this is how I'm going to go to market. I'm going to go to, how are you going to sell it? They use the word channel. Channel is just a fancy word, is how will I take this cup to my customer?
Sure.
Am I going to physically go and sit in a flea market? That's a channel. Am I going to sell it online? That's a channel. Am I going to sell it in a store? That's a channel. So what channels are you going to use to get it to the... You have to have answers to those questions. So I'm going to sell the product. This is what it's going to cost me. They call it cost of sales. They call it cost of service.
Sure.
This is what's going to cost me. This is my profit. My profit times 10 cups over a 12-month period. This is my profit. So that, you need the skill. And when they talk about there's an entrepreneurial and management skill, that's what they're talking about. That's what's missing. So I'm going to give you 500,000 to run this business, right? I need to know all the answers to those questions before I can give you 500,000. Is that fair?
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, it is. But I think it is the ABCs of it. that is making it very difficult for people to be able to package what is actually necessary. You know, as much as we can say that you need to be able to have this plan in place, you need to do that and whatever it is, for you to be able to have and package it in a manner that is going to be acceptable to a financial institution, it is that process that I think that is a problem. Because when you talk about a business plan, I think you can also attest to it that a lot of people are thinking, where do I really start?
Yeah.
And I still have difficulties in being able to really put it together, simply because you are thinking, okay, so what would be the expectation? And how am I going to be able to package this thing in a way that the bank can be able to have confidence in giving me 5 million as a startup to be able to implement what I need to implement or drive it. At the same time, you don't have collateral. At the same time, you don't have people that will be able to support you. You are all alone. And therefore, don't you think that business or government needs to sort of make it easier for entrepreneurs to be able to put together this type of information that those businesses need? Don't you think we need to be able to create a space for Cindy that is coming from Ekubu or is it Kunu or you know to those places to say, Cindy, you've got an idea and you need money, but how do we make it a realization? Because it is
It's
tough.
It's tough, and it's such an important question. And let me answer you with why I chose this passion, right?
Thank
That's
you.
that's maybe
Thank
what I
you.
want to do. So yes, an MBA, if people have the privilege of going through that, it's brilliant, because they talk about supply versus demand, the pricing
Yeah.
strategy,
Yeah.
all of this brilliant things theoretically, which is fundamentals in terms of business, right? They're fundamentals to make you successful in business. But to translate it into reality, it's exactly how what I shared with you. And that's what's missing. There's the bridge between academic
Sure.
and what's real. And how do you almost build a bridge? You build a bridge with programs that are not just mentorship. People just don't want to be mentored, right? Yes, mentorship is important, and it depends on the definition of mentorship. So it's mentorship coaching, but within a context of learning. I need to give you that skill. I need to help you think.
Yes.
And what's foundational, if you tell me that, you ask me the how, I said to you in the first, what's shifted my thinking is when I did my thesis in my MBA in how do leaders impact organizational change. One of the findings from there was so profound, and I reflected on it, and it almost got the hair, at the back of my neck up, because I realized something important. Well, I always realized it, but it confirmed it. Is that businesses can be successful. It's all about the balance sheet. It's all about the top line. It's all about the bottom line. That's how you measure your business. But successful businesses, right, is a function of people and behavior. And if you can understand that, so let me say that again. It's successful businesses is a function of people and behavior. It means that when I help you understand business and help you to build a business, I need to help you think differently so your behavior can change, so you can act differently. Giving you templates and books to read on your own is not going to help you. That's the how and why, for me, I'm so passionate about the programs that we run, is because, and you ask me, Vani, so what's different? We look at behavior training. We help you do simulations. So there's this business model with the cup, as simple as that. 12 cups per month over a period of 12 months, taking how much it will cost to make that cup, right? and then looking at your profit, and then looking at all the actions you're going to take. So Cindy, we're going to sell this cup over a 12-month period. So let's take action 1, 2, 3, and 4. Remember, I said to you first that an entrepreneurial mindset is about being disciplined and focused.
Sure.
All right? So what's my first action? I need to make sure I get a supplier of materials that's cost effective. Who's going to help me with the materials? Who is that person? Let's go and talk to that person and get my material. How many a day do I need to do to get 12 cups ready? And when my 12 cups ready, then I'm going to take it there and sell it. Action, action. Where else can I sell? Okay, so I need to set up a Facebook page because I want to advertise this cup. So I set up my Facebook page, and then I had advertised the cup. And then how much should I sell it for? Pricing strategy. MBA students will call it. Simple price so that I can make my profit, right? So you're looking at how you can get it out there. When you put it onto Facebook, it means everybody is going to know about this cup. It's a forum for marginalized industries, and everyone's going to talk about it because a lot more people can see it. Instead of me going to the flea market where 20 people are going to see this cup, I'm going to put it onto Facebook because 1,000 people will see this cup. So your reach is further. That's what the business plan talks to, and that's how simple the learnings can be. But how you create behavior change is, Cindy, now do it, and let's come back and have discussion about what you did, what you found difficult, what worked for you and what didn't work for you, and let's have a conversation. That's simulation, and that's mentorship.
So the training and skill. We spoke about training. You said there's a lack of training in terms of you being able to run your business because you get into the space, you know nothing about the space. So the lack of training, what were you referring to, Avi, if you can unpack it a bit?
Okay, so I'll go back, but I want to close my conversation on funding.
Sure.
Because I think there is one important component on funding.
Please.
So it's about the credibility, right?
Yeah.
You being able to show that you can get a return on the investment.
Okay. Yes.
And
that
generally,
ROI,
generally, banks and investors, I can tell you now, will look at whether you need to have traded for 3 years and more, because trading and doing business means you got evidence that I am capable of running this business. There's capability in my organization, there's capability in me.
So if you don't have the 3 years to show for,
then there's a cross against you, right? So let me tell you what other options for less than 3 years, right? So that's the second thing is regulation and legislation. You have to tick the box. Am I registered with SIPC? Am I tax compliant? Do I have BE certification? Those things are legislative, not just in South Africa, it's global. And it is important before you can get funding. Because think about it, you need to be registered as a company. That's what SIPC is about. It's regulated. You need to have your tax affairs in order. It's statutory, it's regulation. You need to make sure you submit your tax returns. And I'm talking about those companies that are 3 years and more and within those 3 years. But even as a startup, you still have to tick those regulation and registration compliance. And that's the setup of a business. When you say, where do I start?
the compliance part.
You're setting, what do I need to set up my business?
Yes.
So all of those elements are so critical. And then the last thing I must say to you is pitch. Your pitch perfect for fundraising is so important. How do I pitch my business for grants, for funding? I know, and you read it in many of these articles, or you see the information. You've got grants for funding for businesses that are less than 3 years. What was different? There's a focus on technology. But I sell technology, you sell technology, but how I convince them to give me the money is a skill. Pitching is a skill. So you have to learn it. You have to invest. You have to, the one thing I know when I listened to a previous podcast of yours, you spoke about an entitlement culture.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And the one thing I must say, entrepreneurs, us as entrepreneurs, cannot feel and be entitled. We must show we are worth it and we've earned it.